Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost Here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar, and we have with us on the line today Brad Zastrow. He is the Global Head of Business Development at Dash. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So excited to have you on. Why don't you go ahead and just start us off with giving us some background about Dash and what it does.
Dash is a cryptocurrency. We are an alternative form of payments. We focus really on one use case, which is we view the world today as, or the world of payments specifically today, as being too hard. They take too long and cost too much. And where Dash provides a solution is what we focus on, which is transacting at extraordinarily quick with very cheap fees. So we transact at about near Visa-like transaction speeds, about 1 second. And right now, to transact via what we call the instant send feature, which is that speed, is about 2.5 to 3 U.S. cents, regardless of the balance. So very inexpensive to use.
And I love that your mission is just to make things easier, which I think a lot of people don't associate with cryptocurrencies, at least people who are not in that space entirely. They associate it with a lot of issues and things. Why don't you expand a little bit about, why this is one of the easier currencies to use and how you're really changing the way people are looking at crypto?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting space. I mean, we're still early days, I think, as we kind of work through, just different ways to implement and utilize cryptocurrency. What we found is that if we kind of look, if we look at the payment space and different payment types today, we can kind of see where there's certain pain points. And some of these pain points, I guess, Dash is not, in our view, a good solution. Paper checks would be a good example of that. But in other cases, I think, to your point around making things easier, the use case is almost textbook in some ways. A perfect example is with the legal U.S. cannabis industry. Right now, that is a industry that is almost 100% reliant on cash. Variety of reasons as to why, but by and large, it's because of a lot of banking restrictions relating to the regulatory challenges around cannabis. The point is that the cost of using cash for the cannabis industry can be as high as 20%, which is a bit, I think, sometimes crazy on the surface. But when you think about the cost of the insurance, the protecting it, the fraud, the loss, all of those components mixed in, as well as the fact that even if a bank does accept cash deposits from some of these industries, from some of these companies, they put a hold on actual cash fiat deposits for about a month to do their validation of checks, et cetera. Where am I getting to is, I guess, is even fiat is actually not a great payment, or rather great form of payment when looked at a large scale. And again, that cannabis industry is an example. So where Dash can provide that solution is, of course, being able to transact extraordinarily quick creates a solution both at the point of sale on a B2C, business to consumer side of things, as well as on that business to business relationship, where the front end store dispensary is buying product from a grower, so on and so forth, and being able to engage with that supply chain. These companies no longer need to hire an armored truck to send $500,000 in cash to pay their grower. They can transact again in a completely tax audible way with Dash. And with one of the partners that we're working with right now, who's leading the space in that payments for the cannabis industry, which is Alt36.
That's just insane. I'm still hung up on the fact that they hold your cash for a month. I mean, that is That's unsustainable. It's unusable.
I mean, fiat is not liquid, right? Like, I mean, when you put it that way, it is crazy to think about, but it's very unfortunate. And to be fair, I mean, these deposits are not, $100 here, $300. I mean, they're significant cash deposits, but you're right. 1/12 of the business's annual operating cash flow is locked up. That's a significant impact to any business.
Absolutely. So getting back to Dash and just the ease of use that is created by using Dash, tell us a little bit about a light wallet.
Oh, the light wallet. Well, we've got a mobile phone wallet that we use, available on the Apple Store as well as Google Play Store. We're also integrated with multiple other wallet providers out there as well.
Go ahead and give us a little more insight into the Dash wallet and the different aspects of the wallet that you provide and what other wallets Dash might work with.
Absolutely. I mean, Dash, as a cryptocurrency, users do need a wallet to hold their funds. And Dash, probably the easiest way is through the Dash wallet itself, which is available at the Apple or Google Play Store. And it's a wallet that you can download on your phone, and obviously very easy to keep and transact with your Dash as well. A lot of cryptocurrencies transacted via QR scanning, and so that functionality is built into our wallet as well. We also are integrated in a host of other kind of third-party wallet providers too. Best way to really kind of stay updated on that is just to head to dash.org, and you can find a link of a lot of our wallet partners. But we are integrated with a lot of the leading ones out there as well.
So let's go into a little bit about yourself. How did you get bit by the crypto bug, and what are you really loving about this space?
Yeah, my background actually is with American Express, so it's within the payment industry for about a little over almost 17 and a half years. Started with them in the U.S. I've been based out of Sydney, Australia, for the last 14 years. And it was, early on when I heard about Bitcoin, but probably didn't pay it too much attention. And like a lot of people, I think Bitcoin is really my introduction into kind of, the broader blockchain technology conversation. But that was kind of in those early days. Didn't pay it too much attention. But it was really probably last year where I really, peeled back that onion and really I started to understand the technology a little bit more. And it was just very exciting. At its highest, most simplistic level, I was seeing a mechanism for really eliminating any sort of trusted third party. And then, of course, if one gets into even more detail, like specifically Dash, even more just really fascinating use cases around how it solves, again, payment pain points with Dash, or, certain other pain points in certain other areas for some of these other coins that are out there. And that's when, it was really a situation where I wanted to kind of do more. I saw a lot of the excitement in the, kind of crypto industry, crypto space that was similar to the kind of dot-com boom, that kind of happened in that, mid to late 90s. Really wanting to be a part of that, to feel, that I could, help drive, direction, with adoption of cryptocurrency. And I think the way Dash is structured with, its governance system as well, the product that it has, specifically as a project that I wanted to work for, Dash was exactly what I was wanting to move into. So it was just a real perfect fit on kind of my interests and kind of my timing career-wise. I joke, Amex, like any big corporation, it's a cruise ship. You're not going to move very fast. You're going to be a crew of one of many. You won't own anything completely. You'll play an important role to help the entire cruise ship go forward. But you also will never be able to pivot very quickly. And though you'll weather storms with more stability, it's going to be a little bit more boring of a ride. Whereas Dash is a startup, is more of a speedboat. The ride is a lot more fantastic. You can pivot, you can change direction much easier. And again, while it might be some bumps in the road, it is a lot more exciting.
Definitely, and I'm curious about the governance system. Can you give us a little bit of insight into how that's all working?
Yeah, this is, I think, an area that's maybe where it's not as well known. I think, in my view, but I think it's very important and actually really sets Dash apart. And the way the governance system works is effectively with a system of, I guess you can really think of them as shareholders. So to take a step back, cryptocurrencies, if you speak generically, have a layer of a computer network layer that they call miners, and they're the ones maintaining the network and providing services for the network. Dash has that, like any crypto, but then we have another layer on top that we call the master nodes, and the master nodes are those kind of shareholders, of the network, if you will, and they are also providing services to the network. They're the ones that do that instant send transaction processing, for example. To be a master node, you have to prove ownership of 1,000 Dash. You don't need to stake that anywhere. Just the proof that you have that ownership, proof that you have skin in the game. Then you're allowed to spin. Well, then once you spin up a node, that node is then recognized as a master node. So as that shareholder of the network, how does that act as a governance process or feature? We have a monthly treasury, a monthly funding model. We never went through an ICO. We never took, say, specific investor or VC or PE money. Rather, instead, we are a self-funding network. And the way it works is the transaction fees are split 50-50 with the miners and the master nodes. The super block rewards, the new coins that are generated, those are split 45 and 45 between the master nodes and the miners. That leaves a 10% delta. That delta is then used for that treasury system. And what happens is, on a monthly basis, literally anyone, it does cost 5 Dash to help eliminate spam, but literally anyone can post a proposal up to the network for a vote to receive part of that funding on a monthly basis. And that proposal can be anything from, say, marketing, some biz dev work, integrations, basically you name it, and there's been some sort of creative solution offered to the network. The masternode owners, being the voters of that, are then the one governing in that direction of the network. Now, I work for Dash Core Group. Technically, you can really view me as a vendor of the network itself, though we clearly hope not. In theory, the masternode owners could fire the management team, Dash Core Group, from the project and hire someone else. That is entirely possible. So that type of governance means that there's always this vested interest, parties with this skin in the game to really drive the network forward. That means a lot when it comes to real-world adoption and partnering with really legacy companies, legacy payment companies. Here's an example. Last year, Bitcoin went through a lot of internal debate around scalability issues. The short summary is that debate was not settled, and ultimately one group did a hard fork that became BCH. They went 2 megabyte. Everybody else stayed Bitcoin. They found a different solution with Lightning Network, and there's still even arguments back and forth. But the point is very disruptive, and it took a long time to even kind of get that dust to start being settled. Dash, on the other hand, we voted and went to 2 megabyte block size in the 24-hour vote. that type of ability to pivot and push the network forward, being proactive, not having to rely on a network of volunteers and donations of time and money, it's a huge advantage.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, that sounds like something that needs to exist in most of the systems that are coming through. Besides Dash, this should be something that most companies should be adapting to, because it solves a lot of issues.
Absolutely right. That governance ensures that the best interests of the network is always being addressed. We've got 4,800 or almost 4,900 master nodes. So at today's prices, a single master node will cost you, not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, we're looking at $250,000 to run a master node right now today. For any one person to, in theory, get a super majority of the master nodes out there would require a significant investment, which is where that other part of the security comes into play. That the type of investment you're looking in billions of dollars to be able to own 51 or more % of master nodes means you would then have so much skin in the game, you would actually never take a negative action against the network. The cost would outweigh the benefit.
And when you have this decentralized governance system, people they feel like they're more in it. It becomes more of a priority for
Sure.
them, not just because they're not just voting with their money. It's something they're thinking about and they're trying to change, and they're putting in proposals, and you get a lot more involvement, and that's going to create such a more positive, interactive utility.
100% agree, and you hit the nail on the head. It's that involvement, that participation, that ends up being critical. It's not it's not passive, I guess, for lack of a better word. And a great example of that is what's happening with Dash in Venezuela. The short summary is that Venezuela is now number 2 market for Dash if you look at website visits. And it's really where a lot of mass adoption is really kind of first starting on many levels. And this has all been from that type of community driven projects that have been voted and funded by the masternode community as well. So, to your point around that kind of governance and engagement and involvement, that's a live example right there.
To your knowledge, are any other cryptocurrencies doing this?
I think there's definitely a few coins out there that are definitely interested, I would say, in maybe call it by and large, say distressed markets. And Venezuela is probably, unfortunately for those living there, is probably what we would look at as almost a textbook example of, where crazy inflation creates, let's just put it, massive and severe challenges to the people in the economy. So I know that there are quite a few coins that are looking at that space as well. We're really focused on building that ecosystem to ultimately, I guess, if you look at it at a high level, we want people to be able to acquire, to store, and then spend their Dash. And you really need to build up kind of all three of those pillars, and that's what we're focused on.
And, that's moving into, the future. Where do you see Dash going in the next 3 years? And are there any things up your sleeve that you'd like to share?
It's the industry is crazy insofar that, every, 6 months in crypto industry feels like it's 7 years worth of change, in kind of the real world, as it were. It's hard to say. I think over the next 3 years, what we'll see is a couple of different things kind of start to solidify. I think what we'll see is regulations being probably one of the earlier items that really start to take shape. We've seen this already. I think we're going to see this accelerate. And I think really the end of 2018, early 2019 is where that shape is really going to start to take effect. That's one element. The second element, I think, particularly over a time frame of, say, 3 years, we're also going to see a consolidation in the market. I think, again, using the analogy of the .com boom, we're going to see a lot of projects start to run out of funding, fail in some way, or just not gain any sort of adoption. Or possibly even mergers or acquisitions, something that hasn't even really been discussed to my knowledge at too much length. But I could see movements again on that type of a time frame in that space, and the industry will start to consolidate into kind of, I think, more kind of key leaders, if you will. And that doesn't necessarily always mean first movers either. It means, I think, to be fair, it's going to be who executes the best. And again, Internet.com boom provides us with plenty of examples. Alta Vista was before Google. Netscape was before, Internet Explorer. And Friendster was before Facebook. But, we all know who survived. So that again, I see, really history repeating itself, in so many levels. And I think then that third piece is I think you are going to start to see broader, more wider mass adoption. I think it's going to, though, be not patchy. It's going to vary, possibly quite significantly by different geographical areas. And what I mean by that is, and again, looking at today, I think we will see certain distressed markets, markets that experience high degrees of, again, inflation, corruption, a loss of economic freedom for the people that live there. I see those markets as being really the incubators that are going to where we're going to see this mass adoption start to evolve first. And the reason why I think it'll happen more there or possibly quicker there than, say, Western countries is in a rich country today, to spend your crypto, the volatility is a disincentive. Nobody wants to be the 10,000 Bitcoin pizza guy anymore, right? So people in rich countries don't want to spend. But again, if you then put the lens of someone living in Venezuela on for a moment, then you see, well, wait a minute, my national fiat is actually more volatile than crypto, and it only goes down. So actually, there's an incentive to use crypto, kind of as everyday spend, and things of that nature. So that's the reason why I see those markets as, again, being that kind of incubator where you're going to see these, kind of processes, these kind of implementations, this type of economy kind of be tested, experimented on and involved, in these type of markets. And then that's going to eventually transpire and bubble out through the larger Western economies as well.
I love it. I love that insight. Thank you so much for really giving us a deep knowledge of what's happening right now. So where's the best way for people to get a piece of the Dash action?
The best place is, I think just our website, dash.org. That's really the best way to really kind of get started, understand a little bit more of our project. We will be going through some website branding, over the coming months as well. So stay tuned for obviously updates on that. But yeah, I think that's just really, a great place to start. And just, again, educate yourself with everything about us.
Brad, thank you so much for joining us here today on Future Tech Podcast. And I am sold on Dash myself now. I love the governance system. And I hope you can join us again soon, because this conversation is definitely not over.
No, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Juliet. Really enjoyed chatting with you as well. And certainly I look forward to returning.
That is Brad Zastrow. He is the Global Head of Business Development at Dash. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Juliet Lamar, the Future Tech Podcast.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.